G'day, this is Peter from the Property Club back with another episode. So today's topic is about property and it's about opportunity in Asia. So what I realized the other day having a look at the charts, actually in Southeast Asia in particular, the numbers for those infected with the coronavirus actually in comparison to the rest of the world looks quite low. And I'm just wondering if that's real or there is a delay. So I've been doing some research here in particular in the Philippines, and what people are telling me is they just can't test enough people. So in actual fact, the results for those infected with the coronavirus could be much higher than what we realize. The other thing too is the death rate here in the Philippines has been high in comparison to places like Australia, where yes, we have over 4,000 people infected with the virus, but the death rate, the percentage rate is quite low. It's below 0.5%, whereas it remains to be seen. And what I think is happening here is in Southeast Asia, places like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, we're seeing a lag. Okay, and we're seeing a lag that this is actually going to go on for a much longer time. Now, I know it's a terrible thing, the coronavirus, but we need to remain positive, and you need to look at the positive light to the situation, which is this could be one of the biggest opportunities to buy property in Asia in our lifetime. Okay, and I don't say that lightly because, ultimately it depends how long this crisis goes on. Now, recently I saw something, and actually, interesting. It was from Australia, and this was from the federal government. And in Australia, what they're doing is called a 6-month moratorium. So, for those that aren't aware what a rent moratorium is, now the federal government in Australia has actually come out and said they're going to have a 6-month moratorium on rent. Okay, so that applies to landlords, and this came to light on the 30th of March. Now, it's actually bad news for landlords because what it actually means is that, landlords, even if the tenant stops paying for a period of 6 months, landlords cannot evict tenants from the property. That's a serious concern because, if you can't get rent on your property, obviously you still have a mortgage. Now, on the flip side, the government's saying to go on a repayment holiday, which is kind of like applying for hardship, and it can affect your credit rating and affect you for being able to buy property or leverage against your property to buy other assets like shares. So I'm kind of against, applying for the repayment holiday. I don't really trust that it will work out the way that the government says that it will, especially with comprehensive reporting in Australia. So anyway, back to the topic of hand. Now, everyone's saying this lockdown in the Philippines and, the lockdown, in other places like America or Australia might only last like 4 or 5 weeks and it'll all blow over very, very soon. But I'm starting to doubt it. Okay? Unfortunately, I do not think that's the case. I think we're in for harder times and we really need to batten down the hatches and things could get really, really bad here. So yes, it's bad. I don't want to harp on about how bad it could become. Who knows? No one really knows. But the indicator to me is, governments around the world are coming up with these stimulus packages. And again, the Australian government came up with this 6-month moratorium. So they're saying 6 months. So it got me thinking like, well, okay, if this lasts 6 months, how bad could it be? It's going to get bad. And what's going to happen is the share market's going to get hit and the share market's going to steadily drop. And it could get as bad, as the Great Depression, like, people have been saying within the media. So it might not be all media hype. So I think the worst is definitely yet to come. So I'm really sitting on my hands at the moment. I've seen recently with the stimulus in the US and Australia, actually the stimulus package helped shares and share prices have been rising. And look, honestly, I would not be speculating in the share market right now, with that upward movement. I think, again, and I've said it a few times, that it is a dead cat bounce. So I think, look, hold off. For myself personally, I can't tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and that's hold off and wait and see. Okay, because if it does continue for a period of 6 months, you think about it. Now, I want to see your comments here below as well. If this lasts for 6 months, if we last in lockdown and we have this issue with the coronavirus and it doesn't just, stabilize like what's happened in mainland China, then actually there will be bloodshed in the marketplace. There could be hunger on the streets. And in those situations, you will find some serious bargains, okay? Now, you will find it for two reasons. One, at that point in time, I'm expecting currencies in those specific countries, the currencies will eventually fall. Now, currencies like the Thai baht, the Philippine peso, and Asian currencies in general over the last few years have just been top performers. Thai baht, for example, it's just been super, super strong, but I don't think that can last. And I think that it could be an opportunity and the Thai baht will come back. So last night I was actually starting to look and thinking, okay, now not only that, but there's going to be people wanting to exit, wanting to leave and thinking, hey, this situation's getting bad. This might be the time to sell. So I was looking online at Thailand in particular, not so much in the Philippines, but I think Thailand, actually places like Pattaya, places like Phuket, all depend heavily on what? They depend on tourism. Okay, and because there's no longer this influx of tourism, we've got this shutdown and you can't even fly into these countries. That's a serious issue for those cities that depend heavily on tourism. So think about, let's use the example of Pattaya, right? The restaurant owner, the cafe owner, the bar owner. And let's face it, there are a lot of bars in Pattaya. So there's a lot of expats that depend on income in places like Pattaya or Phuket to survive. And they depend on that tourism. So without that, over a period of 6 months and no government stimulus, what's going to happen? And I'll tell you what's going to happen. People are going to want to sell their properties. So again, I was looking last night and I started to think, wow, Thailand is starting to look cheap, especially in Phuket and Pattaya. So already I could see the difference. The price changes were quite drastic. Actually, there's one building in particular, which is the Peak, and I noticed that the property prices, the listed property prices, have come back in the last couple of months as much as 14%. Now, that's not all, folks. Don't just jump in and accept that 14% discount. I wouldn't be accepting that. I would hold, because I think if this keeps going, like I said, for 6 months, it's going to get worse. People are going to say, hey, look, I purchased this property for 200 grand. It's bloodshed in the market. I've lost my business. My shop's closed. I have no way to, sustain myself in the country. I have to leave. Okay? And there's a lot of people that don't want to be absentee owners, especially expats, because in places, holiday places in particular, you can get cheated. You can get ripped off. So the solution is to sell. And they're going to be selling at heavy losses, at heavy discounts. Now, places like Manila, I was thinking, will Manila be affected in the same way? I don't think places like Manila will be affected in the same way. I think it's the same for Bangkok. I think Bangkok will come back a bit, but I think Manila will actually remain stronger than a place like Bangkok. And the reason is the fundamentals and the industry and the business out of Manila, like BPO and POGOs and that sort of thing. Whereas, for Thailand, they don't really have that same kind of business. The Thais don't speak fluent English, so they can't just, get a BPO, a call center job. What they're good at doing is two things. And I think the two things that make up the major amount of GDP in the country are tourism, the tourism industry, and manufacturing. So actually outsourcing, it is still business process outsourcing, but it's a different kind of outsourcing. It's outsourcing manufacturing. So it could be making a shoe, it could be making a car part or something like that. But as you all know, working in those factories now, there's going to be a lot of factories closed down, and those parts and things are going to stop being shipped. The other thing I also heard is, certain goods like rice. And rice is a big one, especially in Asia, because rice feeds people. Okay? Vietnam is saying that, it won't be shipping out rice. If Vietnam doesn't ship out rice to countries and they go without rice, a lot of people, if this lasts for 6+ months, could go hungry. So at the end of the day, that's a serious concern, because if people go, hungry and they can't eat, forget about money. What's more important is that they can eat, that they have health, and they don't die on the streets. Okay. Also, another concern is that crime could increase. Now, look, this is all hypotheticals. I'm not trying to spook anyone. It might not get anywhere near as bad. It might only last a few weeks, and then, hey, things go back to normal. But I'm starting to think this is going to last longer than what we think. Like I said in my last video about China, I just don't believe the figures. If I believe the figures, I could think, okay, sure, we're going to all plateau, we're all going to do fine, and things are just going to go back to normal like what they're saying is happening in mainland China. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. Ultimately, I just don't think it's going to happen, and I think we need to plan for the worst. So that means, we need to stock up on food, make sure we're safe, but we also need to plan for ahead of time for our families, that if these opportunities do arise, that we jump on them. So back to what I was saying about property in Thailand and looking at Thailand, different buildings anywhere from 10 to 15% off already. So that's a good discount. So who knows? I mean, you might even be able to buy it right now and say to a vendor, hey, look, you want to leave, you want 2 million Thai baht, which is, roughly about 100,000 Australian dollars at the moment, and say, hey, look, I will give you 1.2 million, okay? But that's it, and if you offer that to several people, there might be someone desperate enough that they just want to get out, they want to quit. So yes, definitely, I think this could be a huge opportunity for property here in Asia. So look, if you're wanting to get in, check it out, have a look online, different websites, whether you're looking at Thailand or Philippines or Malaysia or wherever it might be. Get on the internet now and start to look and get an idea of what you think prices are now and what you think prices should be should this continue. And get prepared and ready to start making offers. Now, if you start seeing that the currency is going down, then that could be a really good opportunity. Now, I just want to mention, for those holding US dollars, you're in a really, really good position now. Now, you might say, hey, look, let's wait until, those other currencies come back and, the US dollar is even stronger. But what I would say, if I was holding US dollars at the moment, historically, if you look at a chart over the last 5, 10, 20 years, where are you based on the US dollar versus the currency where you're looking to buy? Could be peso, could be Thai baht, wherever it is that you're wanting to buy. Are you at a high on that chart or within 20% of the high for the last 10 to 20 years? If you're in a high, then hey, it might be a good opportunity just to change out, especially in America right now with the challenges and the numbers coming through with the coronavirus, because who knows what happens to currency. Learn from us Aussies. Mate, I wished I changed when it was parity to the US dollar, 1-to-1. That would have been awesome, but I missed out on that opportunity. So if you're thinking, hey, look, you think it might get better from 50 peso to 60 peso, think again, it might not. We just don't know. Everything's a gamble. What I would say is pay attention to the chart and what things are worth over a period of time. Look at historical data. And I mean that for currency, and I also mean that for property. And what I mean by that is if a property was sold for 2 million and you can buy it for 1.2 or 1.3 million, well, you know straight away that you make money when you buy, because actually someone lost money and they bought years ago. Add in inflation, time, change, interest, mortgage repayments, property should go up. But if you're buying at a lower price than someone bought in the past, then you're doing pretty damn well. Do your research, get online, and get into a position that if things do go bad, you're in a position where you can buy and take that opportunity by the horns. Let's remain strong, let's remain positive, and do the best for our families. Thanks a lot, and have a great day. Double thumbs up.